will be getting new health insurance, and we'll presumably do it through my job in the Senate, and so we'll be on the federal exchange like millions of others on the federal exchange.
So you will be getting Obamacare effectively?
It is one of the good things about Obamacare is that the statute provided that members of Congress would be on the exchanges without subsidies, just like millions of Americans.
First half of the arena gets down to business. Let's go ahead and welcome in from the Chris Salcido Show on the Blaze Network and author of the website and blog of Future Free, Mary Ramirez. And co-host on the morning show on the Big 550 KTRS in St. Louis, Missouri, heard from 6 to 10 a.m. Central Time, Mcgraw, Millhaven. I thank you both for joining us today.
You betcha.
All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Mary, I'm going to start with you on this one here because, wait a minute, did I just hear Ted Cruz say that there were some good things about Obamacare? I mean, that in itself has Republicans screaming at this point. How dare he do that? Did he make a mistake, or has he made, in some ways, a really great, shrewd political move?
No, I think that's a great move because this is a stellar example of his leadership. He is pointing out the one good thing about the law, and he stated it clearly, that it requires members of Congress to be held to the exact same standard that they expect Americans to be held to. You know, and as the report noted, his wife is going off of their insurance, which means he needs to seek insurance, which by law he must, as a member of Congress, seek from the Affordable Care Act. So I think it's an exceptional example of his leadership because he's willing to succumb to submit himself to the very same law that he so vehemently disagrees with.
Well, but wait a minute. He could get personal insurance, though, Mary, couldn't he? He could still go out and get a personal insurance policy somewhere. And let's face it, to be very honest here, he and his wife are not desperate for money at this point, so couldn't they go out and get a much better policy instead of signing up for what he believes is wrong?
Right. You know, the thing is, it's my understanding, per the parameters within the Affordable Care Act, that congressional or members of Congress seeking insurance must do so through the exchange. So I'm not certain if that precludes them from seeking out private options. As you noted, they're certainly not, they certainly have the means to do so. But if knowing Ted Cruz, he's following the law to the letter. And the law states that they must seek it through the exchange as a member of Congress.
Well, he could avoid the penalty is the whole key here to make sure if he goes to the exchange, he avoids the penalty. He could still do it on his own. Let's get to you here on this one, Mcgraw, because there are people right now who are screaming that he's got it all wrong and that he made a huge gaffe here. I'm not so sure. What do you think?
Well, let's look at it this way. Ted Cruz is obviously a very smart man, and so he probably looked at all of his options and figured out what was the best option for him and his family. And he decided you wouldn't purposely make a bad healthcare decision that would do something to harm your family. So he looked at his options and picked the one that was best for his family. It's really newsworthy because he's been so against it, and yet now this is his best option. And let's also point out that he's not forced to buy health insurance. If he doesn't buy health insurance, he will be fined. The law doesn't say you must buy it. The law says if you don't, you will be fined. Right. And so and no one has ever advocated not going without health insurance. I think it's great because I think the law is working the way it's supposed to be. His wife leaves her job. She's not tied to her dead-end job at Goldman Sachs. She can leave her job and work on the campaign, and they have options for their health insurance.
Well, you got to believe, too, that Ted Cruz is a pretty smart guy. Whether you love him, hate him, it doesn't make a difference. He's very intelligent. He knows his way around the law. He knows his way around D.C., even though some say he hasn't done much. He wouldn't make a bad political decision, Mcgraw. You got to believe that they sat down and talked about this, and his advisor said, you're going to catch heat for this, so you better know what you're getting into.
Well, you know what? That's a great point. He's a brilliant tactician, whether you agree with what he says or not. And yes, I think everything a presidential candidate does in a situation like this is purposeful. It's rolled out. And so, you know what? He goes on it. Let's say maybe, just maybe, he has a better position to say what is good about the law and what isn't good about the law. Maybe he might actually find some things that are good about the law. And if he wants to repeal it and replace it with something else, there's no doubt, as much as everybody, quote unquote, hates the law, there are a lot of popular things in that law, and there are some things in that law that are actually working quite well. So he might have a first-hand seat to find out what's good and what's bad.
Mary, 30 seconds. Your last word. I heard you wanted to get in there.
I did. You know, the thing is, again, I point to his leadership as a politician. We're always talking about how politicians, you know, it's more of a do as I say and not as I do type of thing. And yes, you know, no, he doesn't have to get insurance. He could pay for his private care out of his own pocket. He absolutely could. He has the money to do so. But the law stipulates that you're supposed to hold insurance or pay the fine, which he could do. But he is submitting himself to the very same law under which the rest of us have to live. And I think that's excellent example and something that's worthy of our attention.
Okay, now you just brought up a word in there that I'm going to hit on when we come back and take a break. I want you both to stand by. Mary Ramirez joins us. Mcgraw Millhaven joins us. We're going to talk about, there was one word that was mentioned in there that I'm going to bring up when we come back after the break. Plus, we're going to talk about the don't shoot Ferguson lie and so much more when we come back. Let's get back inside the arena from the Chris Salcido Show on the Blaze Network. Author of the website and blog A Future Free, Mary Ramirez, and co-host of the morning show on the Big 550 KTRS in St. Louis, 6 to 10 a.m. Central Time, Mcgraw Millhaven. All right, now I'm going to come right back to this, Mary, because you said something in the last segment here that a lot of people will question. You talked about Ted Cruz's accomplishments. What has he accomplished? That's the simple question people will ask. He makes a lot of statements, very smart man, says a lot of things about the future of America, but as a legislator, what has he accomplished? Mary?
Well, I think it's important to note, you bring up can you hear me, Ed?
Oh, we got you. Go right ahead.
Have we lost audio?
No, ma'am. I hear you.
Good.
I'll tell you
okay.
what. Okay, good. You go ahead.
It's important to note, as we talk about.
Okay, I tell you what, let's check Mary's
delay.
audio, and let's go back to Mcgraw for a sec. Hang on a sec, Mary. We're going to check your audio. Mcgraw, let me come to you on this while we check Mary's audio a little bit. What has Ted Cruz accomplished that makes him the favorite for some people? What do you think that is?
Yeah, it's a good point. A lot of people have pointed out that he's sort of the opposite side of the coin of President Obama. He's a young senator. It's been in there only one term. He's great at giving speeches. He's great at rhetoric. He comes from the far right wing of the party as opposed to President Obama, who many say come from the far left wing of the party. He's the opposite coin of President Obama. But in this day and age, if you put too many votes out there, if you give too many opinions, if you're on the record too often, it's very hard to thread the needle through a presidential primary to get the nomination. So in some ways, he shows up not doing a whole lot in terms of accomplishments, which makes it easier for him to get the nomination.
All right, Mary, I understand we got the audio taken care of now. So what has Ted Cruz accomplished?
Okay, let's see if can we hear me now? Works good? All right. So what I started to say was, you bring up an excellent point in pointing out what has he accomplished, right? It's incredible when we talk about his worthiness for president, in light of the fact that Barack Obama spent 143 days in the Senate before he ran for president of the United States, and here we've got a guy who argued 9 cases in front of the Supreme Court. And yes, you make a point. What has he accomplished legislatively? Well, what is he up against legislatively in the Senate, right? I mean, in his own party, the opposition that he faces in his own party, the opposition he faced for filibustering Obamacare. It's a little bit difficult to do much when the leaders in your own party vehemently oppose you and won't support what you're supposed to do. And can you hear me still?
Yeah, we got you. Listen, I'm going to change this up real quick because I want to get to something else. I got a couple of minutes left. We got a lot to cover here before we take a break and then come back again. I want you to focus on this specifically, Mary, working with Chris and working on the Blaze as well, because there are Hispanic activists in Texas who say that they believe in the rule of law. They believe in what's happening. They believe in immigration-related questions. They want to make sure that illegals don't get across the border. But this leads us to the fact many Hispanics say they don't stand with Ted Cruz because they don't consider him one of their own, and they disagree with his stance on immigration. What is the reality of the situation? Do Hispanics like or not like this guy?
Right. Well, I think when you look back at his election to Senate, I think he garnered anywhere from 40 to 50% of the Hispanic vote in Texas. And you're absolutely right. He is not going to garner the support of pro-amnesty groups because he is anti-amnesty. He is pro-law. But I think that what he needs to do, frankly, in speaking to Hispanics in this country, is speaking directly to those who fled, like his father, fled lawlessness to come here. And paint that argument in that sense, because what is amnesty if not lawlessness? Unfortunately. When you cross the border illegally, you are breaking the law, and he is supporting lawlessness. And in regards to those groups in Texas that are supporting him, supporting tighter immigration laws, they're supporting the rule of law that they came here seeking. That's what he needs to do. And I think I speak for a lot of Hispanics, including Chris, my husband, quite a few other people who are sick and tired of being used as pawns by the Democrat Party and by Barack Obama in this immigration game of chess. And it's time someone came out in support of those Hispanics, of those people who have come here and followed the rule of law, and for him to lay out the welcome mat to anyone else, Hispanic or otherwise, who wants to come here legally, following the rule of law. So yeah, he's going to face opposition, absolutely, but that's why his message needs to be absolutely clear, that he stands for the rule of law, the very rule of law that so many of those people fled here to obtain.
All right, I got about 40 seconds left before we take a break, come back and do more on the arena. McGraw, I throw it to you right now. Folks in St. Louis, Missouri, in America's heartland, what do they think about Ted Cruz?
You know what? Not a lot. The big followers, the true believers, the very conservative people like him, but quite frankly, not a lot of buzz, not a lot of talk. It's new. It's interesting.
Who is the buzz, McGraw?
Who is the buzz? Well, we got our own internal fight going on right now within the Republican Party, but I would say probably Jeb Bush, only because of name recognition. He's probably the most popular coming out of the state of Missouri right now.
It still comes down to this point to name recognition. We got a long way to go, and we're still going to have a lot of people giving us a tremendous amount of their opinions as well. Mary Ramirez, McGraw, Millhaven, please stand by. We're going to take a break, come back for one more shot in the arena. And when we do come back, I talked about it a couple of moments ago. We are going to focus on the hands up, don't shoot idea, which has been proven to be a lie. And the people in Ferguson, people in St. Louis, and the people around the country still waiting for some sort of an apology. That and so much more when we come back right here on MidPoint.